Alexa, play the Business and Beyond podcast.
Playing the Business and Beyond podcast on Next Gen Media.
Coming to you from the Apogee Graphics Studios, this is the Business and Beyond podcast on Next Gen Media. I'm Ashton.
And I'm Tony.
The end of an era.
This is it.
Yes, this is the end of our show in 2020.
This is it.
That pause.
Yeah.
Everyone just freaked out.
Yeah.
No, this is our last show for this year, 2020, and the last show in this studio, the Apogee Graphics Studios.
It is the last show in this studio. We've been telling you guys for a couple months we've been working on an additional studio, but we changed plans, and it will be the only studio, a new state-of-the-art studio. Is that going too far? Is that too
new?
far?
It's new.
Is it too far? No, it's gonna be dope.
Know,
it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be cool.
This studio's pretty dope though.
Yeah,
it'd be dope for a different reason.
Yeah,
that sounded too much like I was insinuating drugs or something. Not that kind of dope. But yeah, for this episode, what episode are we on?
28.
28. Episode 28, the final show 2020, as we said. Kind of talk about the year 2020, just kind of wrapping it up.
A recap of how 2020 started and that kind of ran through the year, and now how we're ending it, and we'll look forward a little bit too into 2021.
Yeah, we've said many times on probably just about every episode that this was a year of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how you look at it, it's been a horrible year for a lot of people. But just looking at it from a business perspective, this is a business podcast that we thought it was a great time, a great year to start your own business. I mean, of course, in the right context. I mean, it's obviously not a great time to go out and get a huge loan. It just depends what kind of business you have. But it's, or maybe not even officially start your business, but just realize that you're at the mercy of the government,
the economy.
Yeah, before this year, we never thought, okay, yeah, the government's never going to tell us. We just have to shut down and can't open up for
who would have?
For 6 months.
Nobody could have guessed that.
No, and that's
maybe Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, maybe. Well, now he's saying we're going to have people in the stands next year at football games, and I guess with the vaccine, but we'll see.
Yeah, but not just to start a business, but to grow your business. This was a great year. I personally relaunched my business, and it did great. Continuing to build that. We have our friend Anthony with Hawks Event Rental Services. He's grown his business tremendously this year. He's expanding his business.
Mm-hmm. Since in the
City, our friends over there that Since in the City, they've started their business this year, have grown it. They're on, you can go through Walmart.com and buy from them on their website. I mean, their stuff just blew up. Our friend David Parada, he's just continuing to kill it out there with videos and photography and just all types of content creation. I mean, the list goes on and on. We have our Neville's lawn service. Like, they're still going strong, right? I mean, that's
and not just our advertisers, obviously. I mean, there's my full-time job. There's a business right down the road from us. It's a small business. It's just in Fort Worth, but they're building a new warehouse. That's not quite doubling their size, but a good chunk. That warehouse is bigger than their other two warehouses. I don't know the specifics behind that, or if 2020 offered that unique situation or not, but people are expanding. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it's horrible, some of the stuff that's happening to small businesses. But don't get too caught up in the media. They're just going to tell you all the bad stuff.
Well, you mentioned about expanding. So anyone that didn't know, my full-time job, I was laid off in October, hired on by a new company. That company is actually based in California and expanding to Texas, and now I'm here building the Texas market for this company.
That's like one of the few companies in California not moving to Texas. They're just expanding to Texas.
Not yet. Just
No, seriously.
as soon as we
Elon
build,
Musk is moving to Texas.
he
Joe
did.
Rogan moved
He
to
did, yeah.
Texas. Everything.
As soon as we have the market built here, yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But again, when you say companies expanding, I mean, I'm working for a company now on my full-time side that is, they're laying down money to expand and grow in a year that was crazy,
Yeah, it's hard. You have to look for that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's built for that, and that's okay. Some businesses just happen to be in the right place at the right time or the right financial situation,
Mm-hmm.
because some businesses are doing good sometimes and some aren't. It just goes up and down. But it just happened to be, if you were in a bad financial situation in 2020,
This was going to be tough.
it probably made it worse on you. If you were in a
Mm-hmm.
good financial situation, you had probably had the time to
Opportunities
pause and say, hey, what are we
Yeah.
going to do here?
Yeah.
Because, probably just about everything price-wise went up. If you're relying on buying material to make a product or sell a product.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of businesses went by the wayside, or a lot of businesses contracted. They not downgraded, but downsized. So there was a lot more opportunity left there.
Mm-hmm.
At least here in Texas. I haven't researched the economy anywhere else in the country, but we're not shut down. I mean, we have a lot of
not to the level that some other states are.
Yeah, I mean, we went out to eat this afternoon for lunch. We wore a mask and we went and sat down, and we can still go do stuff that we want to do. So I mean, in California, I'm sure obviously they're moving here. They are literally shut down. But as far as I can tell, especially in building materials and the field I work in full time, nobody's missing a beat. It's just making it difficult when you rely on products from other parts of the country that are shutting down.
Yeah.
Or saying you can only be half staffed or whatever. That's when demand's up and the quantity goes down or the supply goes down, prices skyrocket.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it hard, but you just have to find that opportunity.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that, hey, if you didn't expand or didn't move on something in your small business or start a small business, you're an idiot or anything. I mean, everybody's situation's different. We're just here to say that in the worst possible scenario, that there is opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just imagine now with the vaccine coming, whatever, politically, whatever you think about that, eventually there's going to be enough people take it where we have herd immunity, whether it's the end of next year or whenever things start opening back up. You better be ready.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting ready for the start of restart of a race.
And we probably won't, assuming when we get past this point, things may shut down again here, in the next year, 6 months, who knows.
Yeah, I think, it's ramping back up.
But beyond this point, I don't think in our lifetime we're going to see something like this. I mean, I wouldn't guess that. I wouldn't imagine that that's going to be something we would see again. But we know the possibility of it, and we see the companies that succeeded through it, that grew from it, and that took advantage of it. Mm-hmm. So if everyone would focus on that and build your business or build yourself personally to that level to be prepared when this happens again, and you have slush fund, you have, additional capital, something you can go out and capitalize on that. I mean, that's something personally that I'm really focused on now, is setting myself up to go in and just find those steals when this happens again. Because there will be down times in the economy, and that's when that phrase, the rich get richer. They set back on their money until a recession or a dip in the economy, and they go buy all these small businesses out.
Yeah.
And that's how I want to set myself up and my companies up for that.
Yeah, and when you think entrepreneur or business owner, it's not just one type. Like I mean, there's many types, but I simplify into two different people. Somebody who has a passion for something and that's what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody who's an entrepreneur, business owner. It doesn't matter what it is. They're going to be involved in it, like, Mark Cuban's and Elon Musk's and things like that. Is that right? Elon Musk's? Yeah.
Yeah.
But now these are the essential
Mm-hmm.
or industries.
Yeah.
That they're not going to get shut down no matter what. Now, if you're a restaurant, you know what you need to
set yourself up for
Yeah.
a situation
If you're
this.
big in alcohol, make sure it's not more than 50%, because then you don't have to. You're not considered a bar. You don't have to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make sure you're big on Uber Eats or Grubhub, or have your own delivery
Somewhere
service
to go
Yeah,
or drive through, drive up, pick up service. Yeah.
Yeah, just make sure you have all. I mean, not only it's convenience, but I mean, I don't even remember. I think it wasn't that long ago, just the beginning of this year. How I'm not say odd, but probably less than half of restaurants had option. I mean, everyone had options for takeout or whatever, but curbside pickup and everyone's on Grubhub. I get on Grubhub, and we live in Joshua, which isn't. A year ago, I remember looking on Uber Eats like, come on, I can't wait till Uber Eats gets here. But now everybody's here. Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash. But you can get absolutely anything you want. To get off topic, there's a wing place. I think it's just wings or all about wings, but that's all they have are wings. They're in Louisville, which if you're not from the Metroplex, it's over an hour drive. And it's like a $2 charge to deliver to Joshua through Grubhub. Like, I don't know how that works, but
Yeah.
It's just so crazy now that all these restaurants, I guess at first figured, well, they don't. I don't know how the payment works to be on Grubhub. I assume the restaurants pay Grubhub to be on there.
Yeah,
I don't know, but now I think they're investing more in that because you can have a plan, and then the economy dictates that plan, or the environment, or the world.
Yeah,
and everyone kind of dictated that, because I don't think at the beginning of the year anybody now who has moved to being on apps or delivering. I think Wingstop now has free delivery until December 15th or something like that. So get you Wingstop, they'll deliver it for free. But the way this has gone, everyone's moved to that, and you're thinking, okay, well, nobody's just because nobody wants to go pick up food and bring it back home.
Yeah.
We did that earlier today because the restaurant we were going to, or tonight, the restaurant we were going to, their dining room was closed. Like, well, crap, we wanted this. This is what we had our heart set on. So we got it and went back home. And that just kind of sucks having takeout. Unless it's delivered. If it's delivered, then it's real convenient. But if you're going to go out, you want to go out, sit down and eat. So that's part of it. Not only being able to see the opportunity, but knowing when, okay, you need to make a change. You're probably behind on it.
Yeah.
But you still need to go ahead and bite the bullet now.
Well, talking about being behind, a company like Amazon was set up for this type of situation. They flourished through this, where
everyone's mad at Amazon. Like, they were just there.
They were there. They were ready to go. They were set up for a downturn like this, where Walmart was so-so. I mean, they had online, but not to the level now that they're working into. All the grocery store chains.
Now you can drive for Walmart, like an Uber type situation, but you just deliver groceries.
Yeah. So they were set up for that. Well, what about, we talked about it a lot this whole year. This is something we really pushed for businesses, was technology. Utilize the technology. You can do everything. You can conference call. You can run your businesses remotely.
Zoom. Who'd ever heard of Zoom before this year? It blew up.
But it really blew up.
Like, what happened to Skype, man? Skype missed the ball on this.
They did. They were too early.
Yeah,
they were
Zoom
way
is
ahead.
and
yeah. Yeah, now in my profession, in the commercial construction industry, it's the norm to just do video conference calls. There's different apps. Maybe Zoom can do it where you can remote in your screen and everyone can see it and share their screens. And I mean, that's just the norm now. And it happened so fast this year. I mean, the technology was there. It was used in small amounts, but this year was when it really blew up and technology was utilized for that.
And you need to, we're talking about Walmart and Amazon was already set up, but Walmart did have to change a little bit, but they have so much capital that they can just throw money at something to change. Small businesses don't always have that. And all these big organizations and companies have people that's their job. They're just thinking forward. This is what we're going to do next. I mean, that's all their job is. You work for Walmart and you have nothing to do with the retail side of it. Where we do, you're testing this and experimenting this. So really, when you have a small business, that's on you. I mean, we'll talk about it sometimes on on this podcast that how many ever episodes we've had the camera in here and we're on YouTube now. That wasn't always the case, but
No.
from day one we were talking about it.
We talked about it. That wasn't the plan, but as technology grew and we saw opportunities,
We knew we were looking forward all the time, and then we would just work on it a little bit, and then we said, "Hey, there's light here, light at the end of the tunnel. Let's just go ahead and do it." And we're not talking about things that cost thousands of dollars, and sometimes innovations don't necessarily cost that. But some small businesses, I mean, it wasn't unheard of for them to have websites and ship things, and you just shop online. That was a normal thing, but a lot moved towards that when they couldn't open up shop.
Yeah.
So that's something little that doesn't really cost a lot of money, but it takes your time. That's where the most of the cost is. Like, now you got to develop a website. You got to do this if you didn't already have it. And it's just something you have to do. I mean, we talked about list out the things you're good at or the things you want to do, and then the things you don't have time to do or you're not good at, you outsource them, whether through a different company or hiring somebody or whatever. But that's just something that has to be done. You always have to be looking forward.
Yeah.
Whether if it's just innovating or just keeping up.
And that's completely outside of a bad year like this year was for so many.
Oh,
That's
yeah. I'm just
every
talking
year.
about in general.
I mean, think about a good year if you would have focused that much in as things were growing. But so many of us, because you had an economy that was just booming for so long, everyone just got a little bit complacent. And I think this was the year that really showed people where they were at in life, in business, just in general, showed them where they were at and what changes they needed to make. It got them out of their comfort zone. I know for me personally, and a lot of my friends and colleagues would agree with me on this, that we were put in such an uncomfortable situation that we had to make a change. We had to do something different, whether it was career, personal. I mean, we've talked about it on here. A lot of things with business and growing your small business is also working on yourself as a business owner, mentally, physically, setting yourself up to succeed. Because if you don't have the mental clarity, then how can you expect your business to run clear?
And that's something we can get into is what have you done to improve yourself this year? Because there's lots of opportunity. I mean, me personally, we didn't have to quarantine or anything. Well, I did for 2 weeks, but we weren't sent home from work or anything like that. But you find time you find more time at home because things are shut down for a while, or it's not worth it to get the kids in the car and go here, and it's not really even fun because everyone's got to be separated, and things like that. But there are people who have been at home this entire time, have been quarantined, whether you own a business and you were forced to shut down or whatever, but you have all this downtime. And not only talk about innovating, but your business, but growing yourself, whether it's
absolutely
reading more books, doing more market research on your business. You can't be... Again, I've had time to do this, or there's time I found where I can prove myself, and we never shut down. My full-time job, I went to work every day. So I know nobody's listening who hadn't had that opportunity. You did, in the sense of you were laid off for a little while till you found the new job. And even then, I think you had a little bit of downtime working from home with the first job. So that's something you have to take into account. You have to look for those small things. And I know when you're doing them, you're motivated. It's your creative juices are flowing, and you're good as long as you do it.
Well,
but it's getting motivated to get to that point.
Let's take it back to first quarter of this year, right? There was the little chatter of coronavirus, but nobody really knew. Everything was still operating. I mean, I think we were up into basically spring break is when things started shutting down. The kids came home and never went back. Yeah, never went back, right? So we took that opportunity, you and I did. We already had a plan from like late January that we were going to start this podcast. We had a plan. We everything was ready. We were starting on the studio here, renovating, and through spring break, things started to shut down. But through spring break, we started working on it. We started seeing, hey, you know what? And that was at the time that my company was closing their offices, not shutting down yet, but closing their offices, and we were all going to work remotely from home. So we saw the opportunity, you and I did, that, hey, you know what? Let's escalate the speed of this podcast to get going, right? so that we could, I don't want to say capitalize. Like that's the only word that's coming to my mind. Not capitalize on the situation, but
Well, you wanted to start the podcast because we had a lot to say.
we did.
And then a lot more, the stuff we had to say became a lot more relevant through all of this. So
through what was going on and the challenges we were going to see businesses start to face, and we wanted to be helpful. I mean, it was the same type of stuff that we were doing, and I feel like that the help we wanted to offer, this was the best time for that, is in the downtime, right? I mean, not that we couldn't have been helpful to businesses, but how much more helpful possibly were we in these times? You know, more so when we were giving these businesses support and helping everyone, you know, we were doing research and helping businesses out.
And just in general, to name drop, but we had Anthony on here and David Parada, and they talked to us that it just motivated them to get more into it. It motivated you to get back into graphic design, but not that they wouldn't have been motivated in some other aspect, but I don't think they would have necessarily, not that they would have just stopped, but with all you hear in the media, I mean, if you're not directly, your small business wasn't necessarily directly affected, like you had to shut down or anything, I bet you thought a couple, second thought it a little bit, like, man, I really can't. And how many people just watched the news and said, okay, I'm just going to go and shut down while I have a choice, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot of stability having a full-time job. We have full-time jobs, but it's like being that light in the darkness. There's just so much negativity, and I'm sure there's a lot of other podcasts like ours that just talking about the positives and the opportunities we have in this, but you're not going to get that watching the news.
No. And I think that was the direction we for sure planned to go, is that we only wanted to bring the positivity. Not that there isn't negative, and we would shine a little light on that just to make a point, but there's too many positives that come out of business. And I mean, even we learned ourselves that through research and through talking with business owners and stuff, like, failure's awesome. Like, failing's great. Why turn failure into a negative? Failure's great. I mean, if your business shuts down, so what? It's the next opportunity, right?
And I think an episode I talked about, whatever the guy's name is, something Macy. I didn't know we were talking about this, but who started Macy's. He had 4 or 5 other failed businesses that were department stores.
Yeah.
So it's not like you failed and you went to something. He stuck with it. He just learned with it. It's just learning from it. And if you fail and don't want to take the risk again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're not going to be written about in a book.
Yeah.
About succeeding after your failure. Yeah. I mean, maybe you will be in a book about failure, but not for the right reason, about this long paragraph. You say, ooh, I wonder what company this is. This has to be a big company.
Yeah.
And then it's Macy's. You have to learn from your failures, and you would, I think it said something about his family stopped supporting him, stopped giving him financially supporting him. Like, you're an idiot. You just keep going in the same thing. And
even after everyone else is telling you no, you continue to push through.
Keep going. Yeah. And we're not advocating to do that if it really is a bad decision.
I think, but in that, we don't know that whole story, but I think when you have a passion for that and that's your vision and you stick with it, I mean, with the podcast, I mean, anyone that's a loyal listener, first off, thank you. But, we haven't been consistent. I mean, through the spring and summer, we were very consistent weekly.
Like every single week, except unless I was all.
And then as towards the end of the year, we were just busier. A lot more things, a lot of stuff opening up. We became busy in business, personally. We decided to expand this show by opening another studio. There's going to be another podcast within the group, Next Gen Media, and maybe more to come in 2021. But things got busy, so we backed off a little bit. We took some weekends off to focus on that, to help grow the brand so that we could, take that leap. So,
we didn't want to
water
our content down, just trying to get something out.
But for us, that is a little bit of a failure. We didn't plan on that. We wanted to stay consistent and have a show every week, and that's a failure, but we're going to learn from those, right? We're going to manage our time better. We're going to make sure we can get back on track to doing weekly or at least bi-weekly shows And
Or at least consistent enough where we can tell you. I mean,
Yeah.
normally we would take a week off. We say we're not going to be back next week. It's Mother's Day
yeah,
or whatever. It wouldn't just. I think our last show is November 1st. So if you heard our last show, it's just been 6 weeks of silence.
yeah.
And probably
And-
a little nervousness when you heard me say this was our final show of this
But
year.
for us, that is a failure. We didn't plan on that. We didn't want that. But even with that failure, we're staying focused, and we have an end goal for this, and we're going to continue to push through to that, to grow the brand, to grow the show, and to try to, help others even more.
And it's about adapting. I mean, you can dumb it down as much as you want, but you take it just the human race. I mean, of course, we're more intelligent than all the other animals, but we adapt to things, and that's why you survive. You just adapt to things, and if our ratings just dropped and we only had our family listening or something like that, I'm sure we might change a little bit and like look for more interesting topics or whatever like that. But we'd take that as a failure. Okay, why is this happening? Not, man, no one's listening. Let's just stop doing this.
This year, I mean, we started in March, so however many, 9 months that we've been going, roughly 9-10 months. I mean, we learned week after week. We looked at the analytics of our podcast shows and learned from them. The ones that didn't do so well, we moved on. We weren't going to go back towards that format.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things that we've changed. I mean, one thing we changed is we started off, we had our entire show planned out, right? Like just like how a radio show or something would be, every segment, every minute was accounted for. And we adapted away from that because the times we didn't do that, the ratings were better. When we'd come out and wing it and didn't have an official plan.
Yeah, because we would get in a hurry when we had a lot of good stuff to say, and then there would be segments that need to take up 30, 40 minutes, and we're like 15 minutes later, that's all the good things we had to say.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, well, we're taking breaks 40 minutes into a show. We're like, well, we don't want to just come back for 15 minutes and end the show. So, I mean, I don't think it was planned, but we hadn't done a break in the middle of a show, and
Can't even remember.
I think we've done more shows without breaks than we have.
Oh, for
and that,
sure. I
and
think we only did a
that
handful.
wasn't a plan. Okay, let's do this. I think it was just, if we're gonna go, we're gonna go, and let me know if we're gonna take a break. And it's just like,
I think we changed when you were in Galveston. That was the time, because you said, "Hey guys, I don't know what the time looks like, but if we don't need a break, let's keep going." And we kept plugging through, and that was a nice long show. And I think from that point on, we were like, "Hey, if we can do that, and when you're out of town, let's just keep going."
yeah,
You know what,
it just became a weird transition.
And that actually brings back when we were talking about the technology side, right? That we were able to do a show with you in Galveston, Tyler and I here. Turned out great ratings. We were able to interview
Gary
Georgiura, our buddy in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to interview him.
Do you have the book handy where I can grab it?
I have it right over here.
Yeah, screw it. It's the last show of the year. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. NFL cliches. It's his book.
Yeah,
Hit us up if you
haven't-
want it, or Google it. You can get it from him too. We interviewed him about his book, whatever episode that was, but it's in the title, Live from Sydney, Australia. So go back and look at that.
But yeah, I mean, that's what technology did for us, right? That we realized we could interview anybody from anywhere in the world. I mean, we're looking at trying to book guests that can come into the studio, or that can,
And building the studio
Local,
specifically
for
for
someone to
people
come in.
to come in. Yeah,
and
and it worked that way. It worked
yeah,
great.
it worked great, yeah. But then we adapted because we knew, hey, you know what? This was an opportunity that we could do an interview.
Yeah.
And I wish we had video at the time. We had the video chat with him, but I wish at the time we had video set up where we could have had that, But we'll get Gary back on another show in 2021. He'll be on with us.
Well, our new podcast / live show will be sports related, so
yeah,
maybe he'll get on that one too.
yeah. So we'll have Gary back, and he can promote his book once again. And anyone
Maybe he'll
that
have another
hasn't,
book, because I think he has a rugby. He has a rugby
does have
one
a
as well.
rugby
So
one as well, yeah.
maybe he'll have another sport.
Man, it's been a wild year. We interviewed. I mean, back from our first interview. I mean, that really, let's take it back. We started going through the timeline. The base of the show, what we first started talking about doing, was only interviewing. Right, we were only
There's a lot of
bring guests.
podcasts, and those
that was
seem to be more the interesting.
That was going to be the
podcasts.
base of it. But then when COVID hit and it was like, hey, you know what? I don't know if we didn't know a lot about it. It was still up in the air. Maybe it's not a good idea to start bringing people in. You know, it's just was a weird time then. So we just started building shows without that, just with content, things we were going to bring until we could get Anthony in, which we knew from day one. Anthony was going to be the guy. He was going to be the number one. I mean, the show was based around someone like him coming in, right? Someone that's influential in his community.
If Anthony's listening, the first ever conversation we had about this podcast, you came up. So
yeah, no, I mentioned, hey, he's the guy, because you talk about somebody that's so influential in their community, that so many people in his community look up to him as a successful entrepreneur. I mean, he was the prototypical guest that we wanted. That was the type of people we were going to be looking for. Now, this year with COVID and things going, we didn't get as many guests into the studio as we wanted.
We relied more on the beyond part. Although Gary, I mean, he's selling books. It's more. I mean, he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
in a sense. But
yeah, but yeah, that worked, and that's what we're gearing up with the new studio, that we can continue to have guests in, and we want to have more guests on the show, but probably more in a virtual sense, that we want to offer that and have guests on more often, even if it is virtual. I think that's what you can expect to see next year from us, because that was what we planned for the show to be, more so than just you and I getting on here bullshitting over a glass of whiskey. You know, that's...
Yeah, you had a good variety of alcohol, liquor over in this cart for that purpose, but it served us well.
Yeah.
Whiskey and vodka and a couple different kinds of vodka. I don't like that A&M vodka very much. It has nothing to do with A&M.
Yeah, right.
I'm a Longhorns fan, but I'm still cheering for them to get in the playoff. I want them in the playoff. It's a Texas thing. I'll support A&M.
Yeah. I'll get you the hat. Actually,
I
I have one up there on the shelf.
I will wear a hat if Landon plays for A&M in baseball. I will wear a hat to the game that I go to if it's not against Texas.
Okay.
And there's no photographic evidence.
No, there would be photographic
evidence.
Dude,
I have
look
a
at the
picture.
times you're in.
I have a picture of him in a Longhorns hat, so
you're gonna save that for him one day, that you're gonna pull that out.
Dude, I'm gonna
on
wait.
National Signing Day.
I'm gonna wait. No, I'm gonna wait for him to be like the star baseball player, and they're in the College World Series, and there's a big pep rally, and I'm gonna flash that up there or something, and he's gonna get booed out. No, I wouldn't do that. But it's good to keep, even if you're never gonna. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. That was the idea. We were like, okay, we'll start to get in the first few episodes under our belt, then we're just gonna have guest after guest after guest. But really, I don't think we would have had Gary on Zoom if it wasn't for all the COVID stuff, because we had used Zoom, and there would have been no other situation we would have ever trusted that.
No, we were, for lack of a better term, we were getting ballsy, and we were reaching out to some people, talking to businesses, and he was one. I think we made a post, and he commented on it. And then we were like,
he followed it. No, I somehow became friends with him on Facebook, and I just invite people to like the page. And he commented or liked a post about football we made. And I was like, oh, this, and we started messaging. Or I think he reached out to us first and messaged us.
Yeah, no, and we were like, hey, you know, it was something came up at the book. We're like, hey, you know what? Let us help you promote your book on our show. Yeah. And they're like, hey, you know what? Do you want to promote your book on our show?
Yeah, he told us he was on a podcast, or it was a radio show in Florida. Yeah, and after we heard that, we're like, why not have him on here?
Yeah,
it goes both ways. But no, you're right. We got ballsy there for a while. I mean, I don't know where to place it, but there's a few episodes there where it's just like there's something new every time, especially once you get into the video. And Tyler's not here. He's like a hybrid host guest. It's like it seems like every time he gets on here, it's a completely different element. Yeah. Like we have a guest on. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just get dry and old.
Right.
But he's on here enough. I'm not going to insult him and call him a guest. He's definitely a host.
Yeah.
And he'll be returning in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we told you guys before, like we were taking time off to ramp up and build more, and we were hoping to start more of that before the end of the year. The year just got away from us. This year's flown by, but we will. When we come back in January, we're going to be balls to the wall again and just continue to bring content in different ways than you've seen. We're going to test out some other models of communication and technology, and we're going to see, man. We're gonna play with it and have fun.
Maybe more platforms. I mean, we're on.
And we I think
all the platforms you can think of. YouTube, any podcast platform.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot from this year, that we can take some chances. We can go out there and see if something else works, and see maybe if we can get ahead of the curve and be a little more innovative in the way that we run this podcast and just the brand in general.
Yeah, I mean, y'all are the judges. I mean, if y'all want to reach out to us and let us know firsthand, that'll just help us be that much more quicker. But we know if things work or not. We watch the ratings. So if you just want to go ahead and tell us before we waste 3 episodes on something and then we realize it's not good, just tell us right away. Or if you want to see, I mean, we had some mid-roll shows. If you want more of that, let us know. If you want more of Tyler doing interviews, let us know. We give him his own little Tyler in the Street segment or something like that.
Yeah. Tyler, what do we call it before we were talking about it? Tyler on the Town?
Something, I think it's Tyler on the Town. Something. It was double T.
But yeah, no, for sure. Like, Tyler's was a huge impact on pushing us to continue to get more personal on the show, I guess. We were trying to keep things so formal, and Tyler was one telling us, man, guys, talk more about yourselves. Let people know, open up and let people know who you guys really are. And I think that's what really drove us to bring him on the show.
He'd jump on the show and then just talk about random stuff. We're like, kind of weird as that. We're like, made you uncomfortable. Like you said, you have to get uncomfortable. Like, well, that's not what we're talking about here. He would just talk for 20 minutes about football, the NFL, what's happening. And like, the show's not about that. That's not.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for producer to do like, wait, there's no producer. It's just us. We do whatever we want. Who cares?
Yeah. No, but we kept it fun, man. I think 2020, we can say that it was the year that woke us up, and it's the year that really helped us grow personally. And I had a ton of fun with this. Pushed me out of my comfort zone. I never in a million years would have guessed that I could step behind a mic. I mean, that if anyone that didn't know me before, I never in a million years would have done this. I'm the quiet, reserved, set back. I think Anthony mentioned it, and when we were doing the interview with him, this came up, and he's like, really? He's like, you look so comfortable behind that. Like, you look so happy behind the mic. I'm like, oh, man, maybe I did miss my calling or something. I definitely have the face for radio. So,
well, there will be more opportunity to test your sports knowledge in our new thing. However often you want to be on. But like you said, that's one way you've kind of grown and found something you didn't know you were going to do, because nothing, you don't grow very much when you're not in your comfort zone. I mean, just think of any aspect, working out, no pain, no gain. If you're not, if it's easy, it's not growing you.
Yep.
What are other things you've done this year to just personally, or just things that, not necessarily because of COVID or just the specifics of this year, but what are opportunities that specifically happen? Like not like, oh yeah, you got a new job, or what's a choice you've made or something you've done that it may have not shown a lot of gains or a lot of what's the word I'm looking at? A lot of results like this podcast has, but it's definitely puts you in a different mindset.
I really think relaunching my graphic design company, and I think it kind of went hand in hand in relaunching to a fact I rebranded, and I took on some other things, and I readjusted what I was offering, where before I offered a lot of t-shirts and hats and apparel and different things in the past, and I kind of moved away from that and got into more of the autographics and signs and banners and things. But it kind of went hand in hand with the podcast, where I was coming out of my comfort zone, that I could take some chances and it was okay if I lost, you know? It was okay if it
was almost
failed,
like everything that we talked about. Of course,
I was
you
applying.
believe,
But
but
I believed
you were
it.
convincing
Exactly.
yourself.
I was convincing myself. No, you're exactly right. Yeah, we can speak anything we want into the universe, but until we start taking our own advice and using it, and I think that's what I started to do, is things that I knew about business, things that I had learned and researched, even from the past to now, and then even going forward, I started learning this year that we were preaching. I wasn't really practicing it up to this point. I had the knowledge of it, but I just wasn't doing it. So I started applying what we were talking about. And week after week, when we would talk about something and we would bring up, or we would do our research and find something like, you know what? Let me implement that into my company. You know, I never was really big on pushing my business on social media. That wasn't a thing. I had in the past had social medias, but I never really focused on, this is how I'm going to promote it, right? We did our research. We learned a lot about it this year through COVID and what companies were going to be doing and making adjustments with the way technology was going. And we learned that the best form of marketing is social media, right? That everyone has a freaking phone in their pocket or in their hand or in their face 24/7 just about.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a phone in your hand more than you sleep. So
Sometimes while you sleep, sometimes you fall asleep with the phone in your hand.
exactly. So if that's the case, then why wouldn't I market my business on here and get people to follow, right? And I built a brand. I had a couple hats embroidered for me personally, just so I had something to wear, and had people just blow me up. Hey, I want a hat. I want a hat.
Yeah,
I
you
want a
took
hat.
a picture of it just to
Yeah,
give more
took a
content.
picture and was like,
then-
hey, just threw it out there and like, hey, how can I get one? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess if I get enough people that want them, maybe I'll put an order in, and then just more and more and more. And it's like, whoa, I've got to order 3 dozen hats
with your logo on it.
with my logo on them.
Yeah, it wasn't like...
So for me, and I think we talked about this a lot, and we mentioned it with the podcast, the brand. That was the big thing for me with the business, was I was going to build a brand. It didn't matter what I do with Apogee. It doesn't matter if it's auto graphics, web graphics, any type of content creation, whatever it is. I was building the Apogee brand. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to continue to build the Apogee brand, whatever it evolves to. Just like this podcast, whatever this podcast evolves to, we're still building this brand as a recognizable brand.
Yeah, whether it goes whatever consistent listenership we've had, or if it becomes a syndicated podcast worldwide,
Whatever it grows to, whatever the content, our content's changed a little bit. It's evolved. We're still more business eccentric, but we talk about sports and we do mix in some other stuff into this. So, I mean, like you said, this book here, we were talking about a book and sports with an author. I mean, that really doesn't have a lot to do with, like, he is an entrepreneur, yes, but that doesn't have to do with what our listeners.
And that's sort of I don't know how we came up. I think it was you that thought about it. I don't even remember, but the beyond part, that didn't really tie us down, because we wanted a businessy, professional, classy type podcast, but more of a laid back, like man cave study type, studio. And that's where I got where you get with the whiskey and you want to be professional and things like that, which we have been, but like we don't want to be too businessy. So we're thinking of a lot of names, and however it came up was business and beyond. Like, hey, that's just the beyond part. Who cares?
Yeah. The beyond is whatever it comes to, whatever we talk about, and that was kind of we wanted to help businesses, but what we had talked about having guests on and doing interviews was not so much about their business, but it was highlighting them as an entrepreneur of their achievements to that point, to build their business, to become recognizable.
I think that's a very valuable episode to go watch if you're into business, because he talked about a lot of stuff where he was working for ESPN and a lot of different things. It's just kind of his pathway to where he is now.
And that's what I was going to bring up. So we interviewed David and Anthony, and when you really, if you go back and listen to both these shows, both episodes, they didn't come from much different backgrounds. And if you really look at it, most entrepreneurs don't come from much of a different background. And we start to see that as you interview and we ask some similar questions of these guys, that you find people that were in the trenches and busted their ass to work their way out of it, right? I mean, for the most part, that is an entrepreneur.
Yeah, the specifics are way. I mean,
the specifics are.
You listen to
different.
those interviews; those are completely
they
different
are.
paths. But yeah, different paths, but basic. The basics are still the same.
The basics are the same, yes. And I think that was something we started to learn with their interviews, and then with more research and study that we did, is that's a very similar path for a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs didn't start on top. They weren't working at the top. They never had to grind. Entrepreneurs have to grind. They have to work their ass off, right? People that didn't have to do that don't ever make it as an entrepreneur.
And that's the thing. I mean, we can bring up somebody like Donald Trump for business purposes. I mean, he started way up there. He did grind and worked hard, but that just elevated
But
from
you're
where
talking
he was
about
out.
a different level. Exactly.
Yeah, let's say, don't be discouraged if you had a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yeah.
If you didn't really have to work hard to start your business because your parents gave you money or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. There's still room to grind. You just started up here, as other people started down here and they grinded to get to that level.
Yeah, it's all about the grind. You have to find yours and know what yours is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really, I mean, you can't compare the two, but most of Trump's businesses compared to Anthony's business, who he said was one of his business role models, there's nothing wrong with Anthony's business at all. But it's not $1 billion corporation.
No.
But that's okay. But he grinded for that, and it's more than probably I'll ever have with all of his little different. I mean, he has what all does he have? But just besides he has a lot of little things going on. Detailing.
He did have that before.
that?
He was doing that. I mean, at one point he was even cooking food and selling plates of food. I think that maybe that's still on the back burner for him.
But he's one about
bounce houses,
building his brand too, because everything's it's all the same name.
And that's what I think the conclusion we came up to this year was it was all about brand. It's all about building that brand.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You be selling dog shit. Build that brand.
Which that's an actual thing. That's what there's a show.
They sell those companies. I see companies driving around that they come and pick up dog shit out of your yard. And they're selling that brand and they're building. It doesn't matter what they do.
I need that. I need someone to come do that for me. Maybe they'll do that. They do for free?
No, pay them to.
Well, that's their product.
Service.
That's their product they're going to
It's
use.
a service.
No, I thought you were talking about something where they made there was a reality show.
Yeah,
That's
Turdy Works.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I need them to come pick it up.
Yeah.
That
Make some dog shit earrings.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I don't care what the economy's like. There's always opportunity. You just have to find it. Now, maybe your particular passion, it may not, from a business model, make sense to do it a certain way, but
I think
you just have to find opportunity.
Like we talked about early on, in one of our first couple episodes, may have been our first episode. This was a great opportunity this year with COVID, when things were shut down, when people did have more time at home because you couldn't go out, in that downtime, to find out what your grind was going to be and build a business a business or side hustle that you could sustain. You had plenty of time to do that. And that was the thing that we capitalized on with, you had a flexible schedule. I was working from home. We had time to grow this podcast in the downtime. We talked about it before.
Yeah, if we had
if
we had to start it in the last 5 months, it would have never gone. It never happened.
No, because things are coming back to normal. We're traveling and for work and on the go. But through that downtime, we talked about your commute time that you lose. Maybe you save 1, 2, 3 hours a day in commute time that you could spend on your business.
And sometimes I do that during my commute time, just thinking about it.
And utilizing technology to help speed up the process of things. There's so many things on the go. I mean, even with the podcast, we have everything networked together. There's a lot of stuff we can do away from the studio to prep for the show and have it ready to go.
Yeah, between Facebook, Twitter, both of us have that options on our phone, Anchor to post it, ways to test it and listen on different apps. We can do that absolutely from anywhere, from our tablets, our
We can
phones,
build.
a
We
computer.
can access our files to build shows, to set up recordings, set up ads, advertisements. I mean, technology really has helped us grow this show.
Yeah, and I think we got in the middle of it when it was booming. I mean, it obviously wasn't innovative or anything to start a podcast. That started. I mean, what we were talking about, we were in the golden age a few years ago. I mean, we still are, but I kind of feel like it's starting to teeter off to start a podcast. I think now when you're starting podcasts, maybe it's a lot more difficult because everybody has podcasts now.
Yeah.
Don't let that discourage you if you want to start a podcast. There's plenty of room for it. If you have interesting things to talk about, there's a lot more competition. But I think when we started it, we weren't very innovative. There were business podcasts. It wasn't this odd thing. It made me sound really old. It was a hip thing to do. It was common to start podcasts. But so you don't have to be the first one there, but you have to be willing to adapt to get on the train while it's going. And sometimes that's hard to know. You're thinking, do I jump on now? I gotta waste not waste, but use these resources to do this? Is it going to be over? Is it a fad? Things like that. And I don't think podcasting is necessarily going to be a fad. It's always going to be around at some sort, but maybe it's not listening on an app. Sort of. I mean, maybe it goes back more to live broadcasting type stuff, because that's where
maybe some things do come full circle like that, where it may go back to live shows again. I mean, I definitely think online radio is where it's at. I think that's where things are evolving.
What's weird because I went to broadcasting school in 2008, I think, and that's a lot of what was available for me to do for free, free internships. When you're applying to big radio stations, it's an online station. Oh, it's an online station. That's how it was looked at back then. It was like, but now every celestial radio station is online now. You can listen to it online. You can listen to an app. Most of them are podcasts now. You can listen to later on. It's like all these people push this. What do I want to say? Molded this other part of this industry that the other guys, that the Walmarts and the Amazons, they weren't the first to get there, but they realized it and they threw their money towards that because they realized, hey, these test dummies went out and did it, and yes, people are listening and it's substantial. So now we need to get on it because people aren't listening to radio near as much.
Yeah. No, I mean, even like for not just podcasting or talk shows, like what about like your music? Do you even really listen? Does anyone listen to, I don't know, what is on the airwaves anymore? Music, radio stations.
I mean, when I'm driving my car, just because it's there, I mean, I listen to talk radio, mostly sports.
See, I don't
and
even
politics.
listen in my truck. I use Apple Music, man. I jump on. I have all the radio stations there through that.
But when I listen to music, that's what I listen to because I know what specific songs I picked out that I like.
Over the years, you've seen
maybe
it grow.
Christmas. We listen to Christmas music on the radio just because I'm not going to go add all this Christmas music to my.
Well, but that's
podcast.
the thing now. Like something with like Apple or even Pandora, you can pick stations that just play automatically. They put things on rotations, but you've seen that grow through Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music. Apple Music
and that thing too. Apple and Amazon. I mean, Apple you could buy songs. That's different. There's no streaming. But Apple and Amazon, they're new to the party. That's those big companies just coming in after. I don't know how old Spotify is, but I know Pandora's been around forever. Pandora's probably one of the first ones. I can't think off the top of my head, but yeah, there were a few music streaming. I mean, hell, we were doing it on MySpace too. That was kind of near the end of MySpace is still there, but near the end of the popularity of MySpace. But when something works, it's not popular until the big people start doing it.
Yeah.
Because they let these new industries, let them do it. Let's not waste money on it. But small businesses can't afford to do that. You just got to decide. I mean, we can't tell you it's the right or wrong thing to do. You're going to take risks, and sometimes it's a great risk. You're going to invest your money, and there's a huge reward. Sometimes you're going to do it, and it's not going to pan out. You can't wait till Walmart and Amazon and Apple and everybody who does it. Not that Walmart has music streaming. Just we were talking about Walmart buying into what Amazon was doing. But these big companies are going to do it. If you wait for them to do it, then it's safe, and then you're not going to get the. I mean, it's probably still the right thing to do, but you're not going to get the big reward.
You want to be
for
ahead
it.
of the curve.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah, you don't have to be first, but you need to be there before it's the popular thing to do.
Yeah.
And you have to take risks. That's just how it works. You got to get out of your comfort zone to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be the. What sums up 2020 is taking risk and being uncomfortable. I think if you can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, you're going to succeed.
Yeah. Calculated risk, but still, there are good business decisions, and you got to build that foundation, but you got to be ready when an opportunity comes up to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to take it, but it still needs to be a calculated risk. You need to do your research on it. You can't just see something and say, yeah, that's the next thing. That's the next.
Yeah.
That's the invention of the wheel or the internet. No, you have to do your research. You have to work. You have to do market research. You have to figure things out. You have to know what you're doing.
You've got to put in the miles in that.
And that's why it's a risk. You're going to invest time and money, and it may not pan out for you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be my question that I would send with everybody today for even through the rest of this year and to set up and for your New Year's resolutions would be, how risky are you willing to be? And are you willing to get out of your comfort zone? Basically get out of your own way to be successful in 2021.
And write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, obviously that's a thing people have said. It's not just now come across that knowledge, but I'm reading a book that come up in the chapter yesterday I was reading. It's to do a lot with psychology, but they ran all these tests, and people who wrote down something, you're more likely to be invested in it, even if it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
They talk about how being committed to things. That's why some people are so far one way politically, and one person so far the other way. They're intelligent people, and they one of them's got to be wrong, but you're invested in it. Seriously, write it down. Write your goal down. Your mind will take it more seriously. Just try it. Just say, I'm going to take more risks this year, and write it down. And then put it somewhere, whether it's take a picture of it and put it as a background on your phone, put it in your car mirror, wherever you're going to see it every day, and just remind yourself, even if it's guilting yourself, if that's what it takes to do it, and then just take some small risks. Figure it out. I mean, I'm not going to say there were a lot of risks involved with this podcast. I mean, we did invest a little bit of money into it. It might have broken our hearts if only like 5 people were listening to us.
Yeah.
But we definitely got out of our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been in front of a mic since 2008 on live internet shows, and for a short period of time, an actual radio station, to writing, just every little thing in media. But I get in front of a mic, except doing this. But the same mic, after a while, I'll get used to it. But you jump in front. I mean, that's part of job interviews. Even if you're not getting paid, it's a free internship. Yeah. Say, all right, let's jump on the mic and talk. And you're like, this is a new person. This is a new studio. I'm not used to this. And it can get nerve wracking. And we definitely got out of our comfort zone to do this. And I don't know what, I consider this very successful. It depends what you want to put it on. I mean, we hadn't made a ton of money out of it. We've offered a lot of free advertising, but
I think that's something that you probably, I don't know if we ever got into that or talked about like what success is and what success looks like. But I think success is whatever you want it to be, whatever you allow it to be.
I mean, this isn't our full-time job, so you should have a final goal written down if you have a business, because you have to make your nut. But just because you don't reach that goal, which again, write it down. It makes it more real if you write it down, that you can have a different definition of success. Say, this is our goal. But if we don't meet, that's really successful. But if we make it to here, it's I mean, I'm not saying sell yourself short and settle, but be realistic, have goals. There's silver linings in everything. It's a failure. You're allowed to look at the positives because you're going to learn from it. And you can look, okay, well, here's a byproduct of this. and then go towards that. That's basically
Mm-hmm.
what business is down to a nutshell. You do what you think is right, and you just keep analyzing and reanalyzing it and reanalyzing it, and just taking the good parts and get rid of the bad parts. That's all it is. I mean, whether you think you're
you basically,
experimenting,
you basically just re-up every time, and your goals are changing, and you're just setting different goals as you know, and maybe you have a long-term final goal up here,
yeah.
but things are changing. You know, this path, it's not straight. This path moves here. And then when the time's right, it's going to move back here. And then it's going to...
It's
and,
like...
And that even happened with us just in the 9 or 10 months that we've been doing this show.
Yeah, if you would have told us we'd been to 28, I guess technically, I mean, we've done some mid-roll shows, but full episodes, 28 full episodes, you'd be like, that's wildly successful that we were doing that. Now, if you told us what our show was, I mean, it's basically the same, but if you'd have told us how we were doing this and how we were doing this as we were prepping, you're like, I'm not sure I like that. Is that going to work? Because you're going to follow someone else's suit. I mean, with Rhino Sports, I do a lot what the Academy does because they're successful. That's but you want to do it your own way. So overall, you're taking a safe route. You're following what ancestors have done before, what history tells you to do. You got to follow it because it's a lot of smart people tell you that. That's okay. But then you skew away like online school. I know I did some online classes and people look at you like, that's not real school. But now
that's all there is.
It's like I was at the beginning of everything, online radio, online school.
Yeah.
But it's like now that's very convenient in what you do. And I tell you, online schooling's harder than in person because you have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And I succeeded at both.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to end 2020, I think we absolutely have to thank, all of our listeners. Thank you for sticking with us. Even the ones that didn't stick around, thank you for at least starting to listen, giving us a chance, coming across us.
They'll be back.
I got to thank all of our sponsors, all of our guests, Since in the City, Neville's Lawn Care, High and Tight,
Director Parada,
David Parada, my buddy Pookie, Anthony Hawkins from Hawks Event Rentals. Am I missing anybody? I want to obviously
say there's one more. But
thank Tyler for being part of the show. Thank our wives for putting up with all of this.
She hasn't texted me.
And the time.
Oh, she has texted me. Okay.
And the time that we were away, the time we spent building a studio, the time we spent prepping and going through all this.
Yeah, there was
a huge
lot of
thanks.
behind the
A huge
scenes
thanks.
work.
Yeah, a huge thanks to our brother Patrick, who pretty much was the technical side of everything. Helped us get all of this set up. Helped us tweak it. I know I'm missing somebody. There's got to be.
Yeah, go back to Patrick. We went and saw his studio. And no surprise, Patrick, the studio's better than yours. But that's what we did. We copied him to an extent and then made it our
try
own.
to make it.
We knew what was successful and we did it. And I think it was. I mean, his setup's good for him, but this setup was better for the space we have.
Yeah. And that's what going to the new studio in January, I think, is going to be an even better setup. We learned from what worked here good, and we're going to carry over that and enhance everything. Now, I don't know if it's going to be 100% ready to roll, like it's going to be there first episode, but
as far as y'all are concerned, it'll be the same quality, and
yeah,
we could be sitting in a empty
we may
room
want
for
to.
all we know.
Yeah, we may not have all the bells and whistles completed yet, but that'll come over time.
Yeah, I mean,
but the base of the
like I
studio,
said, I think to
and
you it's going to be
there.
the same. It's just it might be a little harder work on our end to get it to you rather than what we're doing now here. It's just kind of automated.
So, but we will get there. But yeah, again.
And if we forgot one of our sponsors, I feel like there's one more, but we'll do a little extra for you next year.
Oh, Waypoint.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Tyler's interview.
Yeah. No, I mean, we just thank you to everyone for listening,
and
supporting.
Gary Jarjuan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm saying your name
Jarjura.
wrong. Jarjura. I said it right.
Jarjura.
I said it right in the interview, and he said it was perfect.
Yeah.
I know it's.
No, thank you for him. Thank you for everyone that's shared our post, that's been involved, that's been part of this team. We've met a lot of people, gained a lot of new friends this year, and we look to
Grow your
continue that.
circle.
We look to continue that in 2021.
Grow your circle. I mean, even if it's not, your personal circle. I mean, you don't have to just be open to everybody, but professionally grow your circle.
Yeah.
That's something we kind of we advocate for, because just have a person for just about everything, because I think we do.
Yeah.
We get questions and we know exactly who to go ask.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And let us know what you want to hear coming up in 2021. I mean, I guarantee you if it's interesting, we'll do it. However many episodes it takes to get to it. If you want to be an interview on our show, I mean, just reach out to us. I mean, no guarantees on anything, but
yeah, you know what? I'm almost at a point I'm ready to guarantee people. You want to be on the show? Let's go.
if you think
It
you're
may
interested,
it may just be a Zoom call, but
yeah, you better be interesting. We'll bring you on. We'll say, okay, go.
and
Entertain
then we'll let the audience tell us what it was like.
Yeah, we can tell you. Yeah, only 5 people listen to that episode.
Yeah.
It's not very good.
No pressure for anyone that comes on the show, but
No, seriously.
Zapatas.
Yeah, I didn't want to mess that up like I messed up Gary's name.
Yeah,
That's who I was thinking of.
Zapata's phone repair. Yeah, and all this information is on all of our social media. I mean, any of our listeners, you know where to find all this info. We don't have to tell you again. But
Yeah, we just shove it in your face.
yeah, again, thank you to everyone for everything you've done for us in 2020. Thank you, Ashton, for agreeing to do this.
It wasn't easy.
For us to take this venture, and
It wasn't easy.
I know that was probably the most surprising phone
prop
call.
you up. I had to prop you up.
I'm sure
used me as a crutch.
The most surprising phone call you ever received from me was, "Hey, let's start a podcast."
Yeah, I mean, I go from this high point of being this online radio star to doing this with an amateur, and now you've surpassed me. Now I'm the amateur. I thought the first few episodes, what am I doing? This is hurting my image, my brand.
You know who we forgot to thank too, man, is Anchor.
Yeah.
Anchor, man, they've been great for us doing all of our posting. And anyone that's going to start a podcast, we recommend going through Anchor.
Yeah, they rather than trying to go through Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and there's a lot more podcast apps than I even was aware of, but Anchor distributes it to all of those.
Yep. You post it to Anchor, and Anchor handles all the distribution.
YouTube
for you.
We're on YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
If you want to thank YouTube just for making, I mean, they really hadn't done anything.
Thanks for being around.
Just being there, and having an easy platform, because now we're on video for how many ever episodes it's been. We should have been more prepared.
Yeah.
We're just winging it. It's late. It's a late Friday night for us here on the time of this episode.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you guys for everything you've done for us in 2020, and be prepared for even more in 2021.
Yeah. We've already thanked all of our sponsors. I'm not going to go over every single one of them because we're going to run out of time on this. But listen to us however you listen to your podcast. Watch us on YouTube. And for that's 2020. I'm Ashton.
I'm Tony. We'll see you guys in 2021.